on in. This is the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast, the Week 10 preview edition. I'm your host, John McKechnie. That is Mario Puig back in the saddle here on this fine Thursday, getting you ready for the week of action. Just so everyone is aware, let's see here. We've got 4 teams on a bye, some notable ones for our fantasy purposes. The Bengals, unfortunately, we don't get to use guys against their defense. Same deal for the Cowboys. The Titans, I don't think anyone will really notice too much. And the Chiefs are all off this week, but that doesn't mean we don't have a great slate of games. Why don't we fire things off with the Raiders-Broncos matchup on Thursday Night Football? This one on Amazon Prime. Got the Broncos checking in as about an 8.5-point favorite in this one. 9.5 at some spots if you prefer to ride with the Raiders. Feels like the Broncos have been kind of riding the razor's edge these last few weeks. Like they continue to win games, but they I feel like they have a tendency to play down to their competition a little bit. I think last week I give them a bit of an excuse with Surtain being sidelined for that one. And then on the Raiders side of things, not a total fire sale at the trade deadline, but Jacoby Myers is gone, which kind of puts some more fringy wide receiver type guys on the Raiders a little bit more on the radar. And of course, Brock Bowers reintroduced himself to the world with authority in last week's game against the Jaguars. So, Mario, how do you see this one shaking out?
Got to figure the Broncos will win, but I don't know, especially as to that comment you made about how they play down to their competition. I don't know if they can ever not play down to the competition level unless it's like a pushover defense to the extent of Dallas's, because they play down, in other words, to the level of competition that they're playing against all the time because their offense is basically bad. The defense wins everything for them. J.K. Dobbins is a constant as a runner, and I think R.J. Harvey has shown that he should get implemented more, but they burn so many targets on plays that are just not working, and blame it on Bo Nix or whatever else. I mostly blame it on Troy Franklin's playing time, actually. Like, he has more targets than Courtland Sutton now. That's insane. Like, if you, as Sean Payton, you have to see that as a strategic failure, like a strategic defeat. Like, the defense outsmarted us and forced us to throw the ball more to Troy Franklin than Courtland Sutton. Like, we should go in with the goal of getting the ball to our best players the most. The defense coerced us into doing something else. Troy Franklin's catching like 55% of his targets at 6 yards a target or something, just killing them. And if they keep doing that, if they keep getting nothing in the slot, and if they're going to keep, if Peyton's going to keep refusing to give, I know he's out for this game, but this is just part of their broader issues, not throw the ball to Marvin Mims, like, you're going to have that slack land on Franklin, and Franklin can't carry it. So until they kind of run the ball more and better, or turn some of those targets that are hitting the ground going to Franklin, get them to Sutton, Harvey, whoever, they're always going to be a bad offense unless it's, again, like such a pathetic defense as Dallas is, that there's just no way they can fail. So that, I think this Raiders defense obviously isn't very good, but I think it's not as bad as the Dallas defense. And I took the this is just a reason to believe it won't happen, but I took the Raiders to cover because I don't think Bo Nix can score 27 points in a game reliably. And I think that this is a game where it would make kind of sense, like, to have a low scoring clunker.
So this is a me problem, but I'm having an existential crisis in my survivor pool because I did not use the Broncos week 1 against the Titans. So they're
I wouldn't worry
to
about
me.
them losing. That's also a kiss of death when I say
Yeah,
that.
don't
Like,
say that out loud.
Packers. Joe Bartle's been probably tilting like at record levels the past few days. Like, I was assuring him that the Packers wouldn't blow it. I was telling him he was you're paranoid, man. Don't chill out, dude. So yeah, I guess the Raiders will win now, but hey, I picked them to cover, so I'm just gonna not bring up the part where I said they wouldn't win.
We do have a question in regards to this game, specifically on Troy Franklin. Would you prefer in your flex spot for this week, Franklin tonight or David Montgomery, who's been a little bit stuck in the mud lately against Washington?
I guess I can't fault someone for not trusting Montgomery or just finding Franklin more interesting than I find him. Franklin does lead the team in targets after all. Like, I think that's bad, but he does lead in targets, so that's good for fantasy, of course. I would go with Montgomery, though. I think the Lions are probably going to chop up the Commanders pretty good, and it just looks like a good matchup for him, in my opinion.
Yeah, it feels like this is a spot where the Lions are going to do a bit of bloodletting. And I think getting Monty going is a way of kind of punctuating that. We do have it very close in our rankings, so it's a great question from our guy Kevin. We have Franklin as our number 63 flex option for this week, and Montgomery at 59. So our models, our numbers, Jeff's rankings agree with you there, Mario. I do want to touch on the Raiders side real quick with Jacoby Myers no longer being with the club. So who does that elevate in your mind? And I think there's a difference between elevation of opportunity versus actual execution and transitioning it into real fantasy production. So, I think Trey Tucker, Jack Besh are guys that people were drafting at various levels in best ball, and have largely, other than the crazy Tucker game against Washington, have gotten not much to show for it. But how are you feeling about this one? Because I guess I do remember, sorry, I'm kind of all over the road, but I do remember us talking about this Raiders receiving core in the offseason and how Besh, good enough prospect and everything, but kind of blocked from opportunity just because Jacoby Myers' presence. Now that he's gone, does this open up pretty nicely for Besh, or who is your kind of like favorite next guy up in Vegas?
That might be a nobody kind of answer. I think they might actually just go 2 tight end or more pretty much all the time. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you see formations with Michael Mayer and Ian Thomas at tight end and Brock Bowers split out wide. Otherwise, if I were them, I'd feel like I have no choice otherwise but to make my base 2 tight end, be it 2 inline reps or Bowers as the slot receiver and Mayer as the inline guy. I don't know what to make of Besh. I don't know what a fair expectation is for him. I don't know what his situation is at the moment, because it's hard to feel optimistic about him when Tyler Lockett got claimed, or not claimed on waivers. He probably cleared waivers, right? So the Titans, who were really bad and had to throw the ball every week and couldn't do anything as they attempted to, they cut Tyler Lockett. The Raiders signed Tyler Lockett, and within like 3, this could just be, of course, like Pete Carroll favoritism or whatever, but still, Tyler Lockett played over Besh last week, and they had Tyler Lockett on the team for like 3 days. So I was not super high on Jack Besh as a prospect. I kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt when the Raiders took him in the second round, because at the very least he's like rugged, and he seems like he would fit well as like a slot receiver who makes tight window catches, kind of whatever, like you might ideally see with like Amon-Ra St. Brown or something like that. But if you're getting benched by like speed dial pickup Tyler Lockett in week 9 as a 23-year-old rookie, or sorry, he's about to turn 23 in a month, that's a bad sign for Besh as a prospect. So if at once I don't have much hope for him at the moment, and still also he better start getting snaps and putting up some numbers, because if he can't, that pick looks pretty bad already.
Yeah, that ends up looking like a wasted selection if that ends up being the case. I am interested in your take that maybe a little bit more 2 tight end. Probably
they have to. They just they have to do like a Steelers kind of thing, honestly.
Yeah, there's really it's Brock Bowers and question mark. I feel like when it comes to the rest of this Raiders passing game. We do have a question, sort of a overarching one on some tight ends. How are you feeling at the tight end position when it comes to guys like Mason Taylor, Juwan Johnson, David Njoku, and Harold Fannin? So I guess, we'll unpack it a little bit more when we get to the Saints. But, with Shaheed being gone, I guess inherently some more targets have to go around. I don't know how much more they can put on Chris Olave's plate. So theoretically, Juwan Johnson sets up, but maybe maybe Devon Vele like starts getting more. So like I don't know. I think it's kind of like status quo for Juwan Johnson. Taylor, I've not been huge on this year just because the Jets offense is largely a disaster. And then the Browns, I mean, both Njoku and Fannin are very good players, but really hard to week to like, pick which one is going to, be the right one.
Yeah, some good prospects in there. Fannin really looks like a potential long-term star, in my opinion, and Mason Taylor should be really good in his own right. But I would assume Juwan Johnson is kind of the most stable option there. And Njoku crossed out for, like you said, the quarterback issue. But Juwan Johnson has shown an ability to withstand, poor quarterback play because it's pretty much all he's ever had.
Indeed. So let's move on to our next game. We got a Sunday morning special. I think this one is in Germany.
No.
Yes. Yeah, it's in Berlin. We've got the Falcons and the Colts going at it over in Berlin. We've got the Colts 6.5-point favorites in this one. They obviously got a little bit stunned last week against Pittsburgh, turned the ball over a ton in that one, and things are obviously kind of went
5 times, John.
There. It's too many.
The number is 5 for the MVP. Not Jonathan Taylor, to be clear.
Our guy Waylon pointed out on his recap pod with Jeff that for the Steelers, like that seems to be like the only way that they can beat good teams is just making them turn the ball over a ton, because the Patriots look totally incompetent against the Steelers early on in the season as well. Tons of turnovers in that one. So a little bit fluky there. But then the Falcons, they gave the Patriots a game last week. That one was really close. A missed extra point kind of end up making the difference in that one. So how do you stack it up? Like, do you still believe in this Indianapolis team to the point where you like them by a touchdown against the Falcons?
Not really. The Falcons are a poorly coached team, in my opinion, and the Colts are generally a well-coached team, but their respective talent levels, I think, are kind of similar. One thing that could be an additional difficulty for the Falcons in this game, though, I forgot to check. I think Matt Bergeron might be either him or the right guard Lindstrom might be missing some time, and the Falcons' offensive line is probably one of the best, and we kind of take it for granted. But if you all of a sudden go from like a very good rep at guard to a backup rep at guard, and then you have to deal with DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart, that could be a little bit difficult for the run game and Michael Penix. But I say this as like a Michael Penix general skeptic, but if he can go to New England and with Drake London largely going against Christian Gonzalez, if they can get Drake London to put up numbers like that, then I think that indicates like a turned corner for Penix, kind of, or maybe anyway, because I don't think the earlier this season version or last season version of Penix would have been able to get Drake London to what might have been his best game as a pro, basically on the road against a corner like that. So if Penix is sort of figuring it out, that would mean a lot, just, ongoing for the Falcons. And I don't take it for a given that Daniel Jones just bounces back this week. I think, not to say that he's going to just go on like a straightforward descent now. I mean, he's not going to just play terrible every week, but once a book gets out on a guy, and I do suspect Daniel Jones had sort of a benefit of Shane Steichen having a specific vision of how to implement him, and sort of to the extent that, the way a quarterback, like including Caleb Williams or including JJ McCarthy last week, how they can look kind of very good during the scripted game play calling part of the game plan. I feel like Jones might have almost been in like a half season insulation apparatus, kind of similar to that, and it's like wearing off in general. But Jones still is in an easy situation overall, so he would have to kind of like play proactively bad. It's just, I don't think the Falcons are going to be that easy either. And if it's specifically like the multifaceted pass rush that got Jones glitching last week, like having to worry about basically all gaps, like that's what the Steelers pose in their pass rush. The Falcons pose something similar to that, if not something about as good.
So if that was the issue Jones had, he might have the same issue in this one. So I really don't know what to expect for this game, especially when you throw in the potential jet lag.
Right. So I think in this spot, I'll take the points. I didn't have a chance to look up like the splits on big favorites and their cover rate in overseas games, but I'm inclined to just take the points. I think the Falcons aren't totally dead. They're not an awful team. They're not a good team by any stretch, but I think in I still am largely a believer in this Indianapolis squad, but I think I'm riding with the Falcons here.
There
What
aren't
did
any
you
really
get?
dominant teams, so it's like these
Yeah.
guys might have been sort of 10-6 material in another time, but they're both pretty tough. When you have pass rushes like these, or sorry, especially the Colts, or sorry, especially the Falcons pass rush, you don't want to see them even when they're not that good.
Yeah, well, Jalen Walker, James Pierce combo meal. I think last week one of them got the strip
The
sack.
down
The other got
lineman
the
too,
recovery.
though. I don't know how to say the Clemson guy's name, but they've gotten a lot out of Brandon Dorless, who was a good pick last year. The Ohio State guy Harrison has been disruptive when he's been on the field, so it will challenge the Colts offensive line. And Daniel Jones does need to keep his cool, because if he starts glitching, or if he lets the pass rush get in his head a little bit, then he could start glitching again.
Yeah, so keep an eye on that. And then lastly, obviously the trade deadline being this week, Indianapolis made pretty big splash.
Yeah.
Sauce Gardner, thoughts on him and his ability to jump right in and maybe slow down that Drake London connection.
I don't know, man. If Christian Gonzalez can't stop London, then I don't know that Gardner can. I don't take it as given that Gardner's better than Gonzalez. Gonzalez might not have been totally healthy last week, though. So if we're being particular, I think Sauce Gardner is obviously a really good player, but 2 first-round picks is a lot to give up when you are kind of cornering yourself as an organization to give who a big contract in the offseason? Daniel Jones. Oh yeah, let's that was awesome. We got to the wild card round. We maybe won a single game before we got bounced. Now we just need to give Daniel Jones that customary 4-year 160 contract, and we don't have any first round picks for 2 years. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, I mean that's just a haul. So I'm a little bit worried about that overpay, but at the same time, there is no dominant team truly right now. I understand pushing your chips to the table if you're having a season like this for Indianapolis, but do wonder if you really had to throw in that second first overall
I think that was
pick.
just kind of like a cold sweat kind of gambit on Ballard's part, and I think the courage that got him to that level of aggressiveness is probably going to fade quickly the more he watches his quarterback play before he even has to pay that quarterback again.
True. All right. Let's get on to the afternoon slate on Sunday. But before that, we got some new sponsors this week. How about that? We got one from our friends over at Dabble. Dabble isn't just another DFS app. It's the ultimate social platform where you can connect with other fantasy sports lovers. Dabble lets you win big. You can win up to 5,000 times your money this football season. Starting with Dabble is easy. New users get $25 free when signing up. No deposit necessary. Check out the link in the episode description below to download Dabble. Now, we also got a message from our friends over at Draft Battle. Weekly Draft Fantasy Football is here. Welcome to Draft Battle, the only fantasy football platform where the draft is king. What's the best part about playing fantasy football? Well, it's the draft, of course. So, why do we only draft at the beginning of the season? In Draft Battle, you can enter a snake draft contest every week, all season long. And the best part, you can get $100 in bonus cash right now at sign up with promo code ROTOWIRE. You heard that right. $100 bonus cash with promo code ROTOWIRE. Draft Battle contests last 1 week and have no season-long commitment, no salary caps, better odds, 8 teams per contest with a best ball format, which means no roster management. Plus, Superflex scoring, and weekly payouts. Did injuries derail your season-long league? Stay in the game all season long with Draft Battle. High stakes, weekly draft, fantasy football. Bonus cash is non-withdrawable. Got to be 18 or older and present in select states, 19 or older if you're in Nebraska. Visit draftbattle.com for details. All right, moving on. We've got the Saints and the Panthers. The Panthers, 5.5 point favorites in this one. The Panthers coming off of a crazy win over the Packers that I'm sure has sent our guy Joe into an existential crisis and much of the Madison office. The Saints, meanwhile, they looked about what we expected against the Rams, but can they kind of buck up in this spot against a divisional foe on the road going into Carolina?
I don't know what the Saints are even ostensibly supposed to do exactly on offense, especially because they don't have a run game identity to lean on, with Shuck obviously needing a great deal of cover, and their offensive line is not good enough to, I guess, I don't know. It's not exactly a good run blocking group, but you basically need to hide with this offense. You need to go into the shell, and they don't even really give themselves the shell to hide in. So I don't know why the Panthers would screw this up. I think it would have to just be Bryce Young turning the ball over, or some kind of wacky scenario like Alontae Taylor comes in on the slot blitz and just takes the ball from Bryce Young, scores. He does. If Alontae Taylor does that 2 times, the Saints might be able to pull off the upset.
Okay, so that it's asking a good bit, despite how good Alontae Taylor is on the Panthers side of things. Got to keep an eye on Rico Dowdle. Did miss Wednesday's practice with a quad issue. I think I've heard some encouraging quotes from Dave Canales about his status for this week, but obviously if he's unable to go, then that changes things, because you talk about a quarterback needing cover. Bryce Young is right near the top of that list as well.
Yeah, it is pretty wild that, as bad as that Shuck pick was, it's like I still don't know if I could say definitely that Bryce Young is better than Shuck. I think he probably is. Bryce Young is probably like a okay backup, which I'm not sure Tyler Shuck will ever be. But you're right. Young does need the cover. I think the Saints should be weak enough on the offensive side for their part that it's highly unlikely that the Panthers need to abandon it. And we know they won't. The Panthers won't abandon the run just because it's not working. Like, Dave Canales understands this thing that some coaches don't, that the effect of the ground game is not just expressed in the stats. And sometimes, maybe more importantly, sometimes when the run game isn't working that well, it's still going to work better for you than your passing game, especially when you have a passing game like Carolina do. But I don't know about the quad. I don't know anything about the quad thing. I will say, though, Dowdle does have a bit of an injury history, especially at South Carolina, and Chuba Hubbard still has not really been pushed aside, in my opinion, unless Chuba Hubbard is still hurt too, because it's largely like a self-fulfilling prophecy kind of thing when a coach commits to a running back like this and says, like, well, this guy's running better, so we're going to stick with him. It's like, you saw many times last year how Chuba Hubbard just sort of incidentally gets better the more carries you give him. It's like, it's not just a rhythm thing. It's also like an opportunity thing that you're judging from a small sample, where it's like, oh, Dowdle had all these 20-yard runs, Hubbard didn't. You're talking about a stat sample that could get kind of negated in as quickly as 3 or 4 weeks. So I don't think that it's like they should both be involved, is how I see it. I know last week it was pretty much all Dowdle, but I think when Canales gives Hubbard a fair shot again and remembers, like, oh, right, he's good, I remember that now, it will, I think, trend toward more of like an even split.
And I do think ultimately, like, if Dowdle is limited or unable to go in this spot, like, Chuba plugs in, obviously pretty nicely. And I think things stay afloat for this Panthers offense. I know for fantasy, like, anyone that scooped Dowdle earlier this year has been extremely happy with the results. But I think Chuba can do.
I think still start him. Yeah, for sure. It's you got to consider, like, Dowdle like a running back to Hubbard, hopefully a flex, something like that.
Yeah, I think that's about the right way to frame it. And then capping off on the Saints side of things, obviously we cast some pessimism about this passing game, but with Rashid Shaheed being gone, is this like the Raiders situation where the answer is no one?
I do think Devon Vele is all right. I just don't think he's that big of a deal. / I don't know how much anyone can do with a quarterback like Shuck. I also think Vele, at least in Denver, he ran more from where Juwan Johnson runs than from where Rashid Shaheed was previously running. So maybe they just play Vele on the outside more, and because I think it would be a mistake for the Saints to screw around with Johnson's usage. Like if they need to push aside Johnson to create room for Vele, that sounds like half a step forward, full step back kind of thing.
Right, exactly. So you I like scooped Vele in some deeper formats and like the fishbowl, like that type of thing. But
Dude, in the NFFC, I maybe should pick up Vele because I'm otherwise going to have to start Tyler Johnson this week because of the Chiefs being on bye.
Jerks, bad timing on
the Bengals.
Part. Yeah, so that's a problem. We got some heavy hitter offenses that are out of commission for this week. So Vele, again, if you're in a pinch, might be worth a look here as we get it to the weekend waivers or first come first serve portion of the week. Let's get on over to Bears Giants. The Bears 4.5-point favorites against the Giants here. I don't think I trust the Bears with that many points.
I don't trust them with anything, really. I guess I have to admit Caleb Williams did a little better last week than in some other games, but it's just tough to tell how much it means, because it still wasn't that great. I would kill for Caleb Williams to just complete 70% of his passes in one game. I'm not saying for a whole year, just like one time. Have a stretch where you complete 10 passes in a row and it looks simple and not that hard. Just something like that would be great, because it really seems to me like Caleb is still stuck in this kind of offense where once he's outside of the scripted read part of the game plan, he sort of just buffers too much and doesn't shoot when he needs to. So the touchdown to interception ratio is great, but stall drives, unnecessary sacks gives the other team shorter fields, and I don't expect the Giants to screw up and sputter. And I worry about the Giants having enough kind of ammo on offense to do all that much of an ambitious game plan, especially through the passing game. But I don't worry about the Giants screwing up easy opportunities. Like if the Bears defense leaves layups for them, I think the Giants can take it pretty reliably. Whereas with the Bear, with Caleb specifically, it's like, I don't know, man. Just it's rolling like a 4-sided dice or something. I don't know, but he's just kind of sack from running after patting the ball, getting sacked, or kind of like incomplete pass or some vaguely decent play downfield, but he never like puts them together in a row consistently, and that third and long eventually shows up. So I actually kind of want to pick the Giants to win, because although the Bears have more talent, it's still not that much, and on defense they've been hurting all year. So Jackson Dart, not that it's going to be easy exactly with the kind of receivers that he has, but I think, I don't know. It just seems to me like the Giants are more consistent despite lacking the ceiling. And I think like staying on schedule in a game like this is pretty important. And I think the Devin Singletary rushing attack might be okay, at least against the Bears.
That's an interesting point. I have a couple other fantasy related questions for you. Noticed a decent amount of hemming and some hawing about Rome Odunze's game last week, where obviously the Bears score 1,000,000 points and Odunze gets kind of shut out. And I don't believe he was able to practice on Wednesday. Let's assume he is good to go. Do we get like a squeaky wheel gets the grease situation here when it comes to Odunze? Or he's 2 weeks removed from a 100-yard game against Baltimore. Is last week just more of an aberration, or do we kind of have that downstream concern that you were talking about with Caleb Williams and his inability to kind of stay on time and be consistent drive to drive.
Yeah, I mean, I think we know it's a fluke, or rather, if Odunze's heel is not the explanation, and I kind of assume it isn't if they have him out there for 79 snaps, but who knows? If it's not the heel that's the explanation, then the explanation is it was an anomaly last week. He had 114 yards the game before, like you said. He hasn't been as consistent as we'd like otherwise, but he has at least 30 yards in every other game, 60 plus in 4. So last week is not how things will normally work, and the reason that it happened, as long as it's not injury, is just kind of the variance that comes with running routes in a Caleb Williams
I've seen
offense.
So I've seen some chatter on the internet. Obviously the Bengals defense is largely a joke, but you write our cornerback article each week. Is DJ Turner, kind of turning into a guy for this Bengals defense, and that could be part of the explanation why it was tough for Rome?
I don't think so. Turner's
Okay.
maybe very good, but I think it's hard to tell how good specifically a guy like Turner is until he's playing next to other good corners.
Sure.
Just being the least worst is sometimes enough to make a corner look really good relative to the other corners on his team. But more importantly, Odunze, I still think, is just the kind of receiver who, barring quarterback issues, is just going to be pretty much matchup proof, in the sense that when Odunze doesn't produce, it's not because he's losing against the coverage, it's because like other things are holding him back.
Sure. I think that checks out largely.
But I like him to bounce back here either way, and like I still would take Odunze to beat pretty much all corners in the NFL.
Yeah, no, he's the real deal. So I think he'll get back on track in this spot. I think he's a fine wide receiver too for this week. I think the Bears rushing attack is getting some serious interest. I mean, Swift is out last week. Kyle Monangai comes in and rocks out, and I think you can kind of trace it back to week 6, coming out of the bye, that the Bears have just been awesome at running the ball, especially between the tackles, which does make sense because they spent so much ammo this offseason retooling the interior part of their offensive line. But Swift, limited participant in practice on Wednesday. We've kind of drawn a conclusion on Swift over the years where it's like when he's 100%, he is still a very good running back, but when he's a little bit nicked up, which he tends to get, his effectiveness gets a little bit sapped. So assume that both are out there this week. Is Monangai still like a flex viable type of play?
Yeah, I think so. It's like a little bit, I guess, like the Carolina situation, where I think with Caleb Williams' obvious, at least short-term limitations, and with the Bears seemingly having the option to run well, they should run well as much as they can. If Swift and Monangai can split 30 carries, then the Bears should give them 30 carries, because it's preferable to having Caleb Williams drop back 40 times. I don't know how healthy the two will ultimately be. Like Monangai limited with a ankle. I assume Monangai is in better spot than Swift, and I also feel safe assuming that Monangai is more durable generally than Swift. Like Monangai, he's not big, obviously, but he is a fully rugged kind of running back. Like if only because his center of gravity is so low, he can kind of he can just sort of blunt a lot of the hits that land on him, and it just doesn't really land on him the way some bigger targets, some higher targets would take those hits. So Monangai, I think, should hold up under heavy workloads. Like I'm not worried about him kind of getting tweaks the way I am with Swift.
Yeah, I think he showed that at Rutgers. He was pretty much like their entire offense for a while there. So and last week he showed also that he can definitely take on a ton of carries and
he's
give you
elusive
some great
too.
production.
I mean, like he didn't have the great workout numbers or whatever, but you watch him and it's like he's definitely slippery.
Yeah, so I like a lot about his game. So all right, that's a good summation of this particular matchup. I guess there is a Singletary note to get to here. If Ramondre Stevenson is out, would you play Trevion Henderson or Devin Singletary?
Henderson, right? I'm not missing something there, am I? You didn't get it.
No,
I think, yeah, because
he's fine.
Stevenson's out. Yeah, it's like I know Terrell Jennings had that usage, but Henderson was always going to split that backfield at most, So that Jennings was involved. Maybe it's not exactly what Henderson's fantasy investors wanted. Maybe they're like, we wanted the 20 carries and the short yardage touchdown, but like 14 carries and 6 targets is something you take when it's laying there, I think.
I think you're right. And then lastly, would you move DK Metcalf for Rome Odunze?
I just hate calling trades like this because there's, of course, going to be the so-called right answer as to like, well, one of them is going to have more points than the other, but neither person in this trade, neither team owner proposing this trade, really knows why or which one it'll be. They're just kind of taking the gamble. They're flipping the coin just to see what's on the other side. So I think Odunze is the better player. I think Metcalf is good, but limited in his applications, and I think he requires more specific targeted usage than Odunze. Metcalf could make some. If Metcalf has 440 plus yard catches in the last 8 weeks, he could give you 4 100-yard games, but he's not going to give you the 6 catch game. It's not easy for Odunze to do that either when Caleb is like this, but it's at least in Odunze's natural skill set to be that kind of alpha receiver.
Yeah, so I think there's a rottenness to both of those passing attacks that I think are kind of limiting both of their respective ceilings when it comes to Metcalf or Odunze. But I think Odunze cleaner target projection every single week.
Yeah, I guess I'd probably do it. It's just I wouldn't feel like I was like ripping off the other team. I'd kind of feel like I was just sort of maybe doing musical chairs on the Titanic kind of thing.
I don't think it's quite that for this guy because he also has Puka and Amon-Ra, so should be fine.
Yeah, I lacked a proper analogy, but the relative dynamics there, changing chairs, but not the vessel you're in.
I have a personal anecdote about this game and some trade action. I sold high. It's a shallower league. It's a league with some buddies, but we take it seriously. But I sold high on Kyle Monangai. My team is in a little bit of trouble. I need to make a push for the playoffs. So I offloaded Nico Collins, Kyle Monangai, and Amarian Hampton because I'm a little bit worried about what he looks like when he comes back. In return, I get Sam Darnold, Travis Etienne, and Zay Flowers. How did I do?
What kind of quarterback league is it?
Just one.
Oh, okay, so Darnold's an upgrade, though.
I need to win this week because I have Dak on a bye.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. Sorry. What was the receiver on your side again?
I get Zay. I give away.
You gave up Nico. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that's a tough one. I think. But those hard negotiated ones where both sides kind of compromise a little are sometimes ones that are most likely to benefit both teams. I know you'd sooner prefer just you, but I don't know. It seems like it was just kind of like you paid the market rate.
Yeah, I think selling. Like I think last week will probably stand as Monangai's best game, and I'm a little bit leery on trusting Hampton for again when I'm in sort of win now mode the rest of the way. That the manager that I traded with, I think he's in first place, so he's more looking for like some rocket fuel come playoff time. I just need to get into the dance. So for me, this at least patches it together for the next couple of weeks. But I hope that was somewhat instructive, trade analysis from a personal bent. Let's get on over to the Jags and the Texans. No CJ Stroud, but the Jags still just 1.5 point favorites on the road in Houston. Kind of a crazy, not a well played game in their first meeting earlier this year, but I think it required like a late pick 6 or something in order to get things done. But obviously, the big news here is going to be, Stroud being out, and the Jaguars, just went to overtime with the Raiders. So, yeah.
Yeah, both of these teams are all beat to hell too.
Man.
It's like I don't know who's even on these respective teams on Sunday. So I I I guess I would say the Texans are a little more beat up. Maybe you could say a lot more. But the Jags, if they don't have, for instance, Jordan Lewis, like I'm assuming Brian Thomas is out. So if they don't have Jordan Lewis, Brian Thomas, if Ezra Cleveland's out, I don't know as much. I don't know what his situation is. That's the kind of stuff that puts the Jags so low that they can kind of lose to anybody, I think. And of course, Travis Hunter's already out. I do think
Yep.
Greg Newsome and like it seems like Monteric Brown's an okay fit for their like zone heavy stuff, and I think Greg Newsome can kind of cover a wide receiver one, maybe including Nico Collins fairly well. But in Collins's case, you're more so assuming it's the Davis Mills part that's dragging him down, and I guess I do expect that. So if I can't bank on, but then it's like obviously on the Houston side, if I can't bank on Nico Collins doing something, I can't really bank on anybody doing anything. Maybe getting Woody Marks more work this week will spring something in the offense. It's just, to me, Woody Marks is not that big of a deal. Like I think he's kind of like a 50 grade kind of running back where it's like, yeah, he's totally serviceable, but I'm not convinced that he's better than someone like Monungai who went in the 7th or whatever. So I don't think Woody Marks is some kind of like inevitable prospect. And moreover, if the offensive line is terrible to start with, and then you've got a concussion for Titus Howard, I think Ed Ingram is pretty terrible, but I think he's been starting at right guard and he's missing practice. So if Danico Autry, Will Anderson missing practice. So I guess I'm taking the Jaguars just because it seems like the Texans might just really be missing a lot of reps, but I don't know. It's not as if the Texans will not show up. Like DeMeco Ryan will have that defense ready to play and everything, but the Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence and ETN, I think, should theoretically have the better offense than the Texans, given all the issues the Texans have injury wise.
They should, but if the Jaguars are really turning a corner, they win this game. Otherwise, they still are.
I don't know how they
same old
can.
Jags.
I think I think they're like it's like a replacement game, you know. It's as if for this one game there was a strike and they had to put some team out on the field. It's like it won't hold bearing over what comes later. It's an important game for them. They really need to win it, I guess. But I'll be impressed if they do, because I don't even know what this team is going to look like.
And I think, some people are going to be curious what to do about Jacoby Myers with him just joining this offense a couple days ago.
I don't think I'd start him. I don't.
No.
It might be okay. He's definitely a pros pro, and he probably is smart at picking up offenses quickly. And Jacoby Myers is also a former quarterback, so he does have a good sense of the game. I just think I don't know. 4 days is not much time for a receiver, and I'd be pretty surprised if he gets over, five targets or whatever.
Yeah, this won't be like the Deontay Johnson deal from last year, but I think there could be a bit of a ramp up. So I'd probably hold off on starting him unless absolutely necessary this week. But I like Parker Washington for this week enough, kind of under the assumption that Brian Thomas is not going to be available, because there's really not a whole lot else in this passing game. Like what
I think he needs the slot, though, is the one thing, because Stingley and Lassiter on the boundary are. You see Lassiter is like
that's my guy.
I mean, he hits like a safety and is always like looking for that chance to crash downward, and that's kind of where like Parker Washington doesn't have speed. That's why he needs to go to the slot, ideally, in my opinion. But especially if Petrie's out with that concussion, the slot reps should be a lot easier than the boundary. You don't want to run against Stingley, and to a lesser extent, you don't want to run against Lassiter.
Lassiter developed where? Georgia. Let's move on. We've got, and again, just really urging everyone pay attention to the injury reports coming out on Friday. That's going to give us a good bit more clarity on guys like Brian Thomas Jr. and the rest of that Jaguars receiving core and even tight end room a little bit with I think Hunter Long questionable as of right now. Let's get Bills Dolphins in the mix. The Bills, I think, the biggest favorite on the board, at least consensus. Depending on where you look, the Broncos also favored by 9.5. But the Bills going down to Miami. The Bills, the last 2 weeks coming out of the bye have looked awesome. They crushed the Panthers a couple weeks ago in Carolina, and then did what they normally do. They love to beat the Chiefs in the regular season. Postseason, a little bit of a different story, but got it done last week. I think kind of defensively was the bigger wow, that was impressive from Buffalo, I thought. But ultimately, how do you square up this game with the Dolphins being at home, having a little bit of a rest advantage as well?
I just don't I don't know how much that Miami defense can do to slow down anything. Maybe I'm underestimating the Miami offense. Certainly Achane, you can like him against pretty much any defense, and this Buffalo defense is still facing a lot of questions that it might just sort of never answer as a run defense. Jalen Waddle, I think, can definitely beat up on these corners. I don't know what kind of player Maxwell Hairston is going to prove to be, but Christian Benford at his best, Tre'Davious White at this point in time especially, can't cover Waddle, in my opinion. I have trouble figuring out the Waddle, or I have trouble feeling secure about Waddle, though, because I just think Tua's, even at home, bad enough to just kind of derail the whole thing for everybody. And I don't know. It's hard for me to be not paranoid about that. Maybe this is a setting where I should just be able to feel some amount of comfort, though, because it's at home. The Bills' pass defense can't cover Waddle, and Achane, I don't know, if that Buffalo run defense doesn't show up, Achane could do triple digits pretty easily just as a runner. So that would be the way the Dolphins cover. I don't think they have any chance of winning, though. I feel like it's I feel like it's true to say that Josh Allen probably has better numbers against the Dolphins than any other team in the NFL. I feel like every time he plays the Dolphins, he throws 4 touchdowns or something. But maybe it's not. Maybe that's more likely in Buffalo than Miami, and maybe I'm assuming, by the way, that the Miami pass rush, which I otherwise find pretty credible, A, loses a big part of itself with Jalen Phillips getting traded, and B, I'm assuming the Bills' offensive line just kind of overrules pretty much all pass rushes, maybe Atlanta aside. But I just think the Bills should be able to score 40 points here, and I can't convince myself of the Dolphins getting to 31 or 32 or whatever.
I think that the Bills are kind of like done with their little screwing around act that they were doing going into the bye, and like even their game against the Dolphins earlier this year was closer than I think most people would have anticipated on that Thursday night. So I think they take care of business here. I do want to ask you about Maxwell Hairston in regards specifically to Waddle, because I think we've kind of drawn up the dynamic for this Buffalo group of corners. You've done a really good job of kind of breaking it down and which receivers project well against them. Hairston does run that 4.28, gives that element of speed to this group of corners. But, speed's one thing, but, if you get shook or if your like stickiness and coverage is lacking, then, things could obviously go by the wayside as well. He's played just 2 games, so this is a big challenge for him in his 3rd outing.
Yeah, and the Bills might very well try to assign Hairston to Waddle, which would be interesting to watch. If so, in the one hand, you're, as you said, you're negating Waddle's speed threat pretty much, but Waddle is not just a sprinter; he's a really good receiver all around. So Hairston, in my opinion, even with his rape accusations off the field coming out of Kentucky, which is kind of the reason why he fell as far as he did, I don't think he was so proven as a corner prospect for his own talent that we would give him the benefit of the doubt, especially as a rookie against a receiver like Jalen Waddle. Like, I think if Hairston were the kind of cornerback in terms of skill that you would worry about a guy like Waddle over it, Hairston probably would have been like a top, 5 pick. So that he fell as far as he did, I think, is also an indication that Hairston has technique to work on. He's great raw materials for the Bills to work with, and I don't doubt Sean McDermott will make him into a great corner, but I guess I sort of doubt it would be in time for this game.
Yeah, I think that's a good summation of it. It's a bit early to just immediately shut down Jalen Waddle in your third game if that ends up being the assignment. Last note here: James Cook did not practice Wednesday with an ankle/foot issue. So are you kind of hovering over the pickup button for either Ty Johnson or Ray Davis?
It'd be Ray Davis. I think Ty Johnson's one of those guys who's just a designated sub package type, and he plays the same number of snaps when Cook is out as when Cook is in, more or less. So Davis is the one who can take that usage void that Cook would potentially leave behind. I do worry a little bit about Cook finishing the year particularly well. I think they're pretty clearly overworking him. I understand why they are tempted into overworking him. Obviously, Cook's giving them really good returns in the run game, 5.7 yards per carry. He's not built to take 20 carries a game, though. He still looks like a receiver, and if he starts taking hits that he didn't used to because he's taking on many more carries than he ever has, you might see him just lose a step too, because he's taken the full shock every time.
That's true. So, yeah, that's a good point about the long term, and I think in the interim, if Cook is to miss this one, Davis will be a popular, scoop and start.
I think
Or
Davis is
be a
good.
best option.
I know his numbers look trash at a glance, but I think that's part of that self-fulfilling prophecy deal from when we're talking about the Panthers. Is like, if you only put Davis out there when the game, it's like an insignificant situation, or it's not urgent, or you're not really feeding the ground game. If you're saving all the money plays for Cook, yeah, one of the second guy who doesn't get any of the money calls is going to have really worse numbers. But if you have to start Davis, he starts to get some of the money calls.
So, and lastly, it is the Dolphins' run defense. So
that helps,
yeah. So for someone who probably drafted a little bit way too much, Ray Davis in best ball, would be nice to have one good week out of him at the very least. Let's get on over to Minnesota. We got the Ravens and the Vikings. Todd Monken scenes going up to Minnesota. The Ravens checking in as 4-point favorites in this spot. I read an interesting article this morning, hearkening back to when the Ravens were playing the Dolphins. I guess it would have been like 2021 when Brian Flores was still the coach, and it was a Thursday night game, and Brian Flores just blitzed the Ravens to oblivion, and Lamar Jackson did not do well in that particular game. I think it's fair to say that he's evolved his game a good bit since then. But still kind of wondering, is this Brian Flores defense one that could be a unique challenge for Baltimore's offense here?
Yeah, it's always dangerous to go against this Vikings defense with Flores running it. I think the Vikings are pretty much committed to a level of pre-post snap disguise that, however much Lamar was sort of making decisions before the snap in any other given game, like if there's times now where Lamar gets to the line and he just sort of, after sending someone in motion, looks out and knows what the coverage is, he won't have that privilege in this game. He's just going to have to be resigned to the likelihood that whatever he's looking at right now, even if he's correctly reading it as it's presented, won't present like this after he snaps the ball, and he has to just kind of get over it and assume it won't be there by the time he's dropping back. And the trade-off to running your defense that way as the Vikings, in my opinion, is that you leave kill shots laying around in the deep part of the secondary. Like I think there's probably something to the ground game too. The Vikings have looked a little worse against the run this year than they did last year, especially that Pittsburgh game. I don't know if that was a jet lag thing, but they were just getting rocked, and Kenny Gainwell was just getting like so many untouched yards. I guess that won't be an option, for the Ravens. The Vikings run defense will show up, and obviously you're not going to hide Derrick Henry that way. So Derrick Henry's going to have to get sent into the teeth of the defense a bunch of times. He's not going to get those untouched yards that Gainwell did. I just think that it would do a lot to reassure me that, about the Ravens here if they told me that they were going to give 25 or 30 or more, please, snaps for DeAndre Hopkins. Because what I was talking about, like the downfield kill shots being opened up, it's true that the quarterback won't know what the coverage will look like before the snap, and there might be an ongoing nature of confusion about what he's seeing because the Vikings just switch things up a lot, and the designs are novel, the concepts are well coached, the players run it well, but they don't. It's not as if the Vikings have 15 players on the field on defense, and yet when you're really in the quicksand, it feels that way. Like it feels like God, how many of them are there? Why are there so many of them? So it's not that. It's that you just didn't know where to look. And if you could find this one spot somehow, you would see it's wide open. And I think DeAndre Hopkins against these lesser corners, I mean, Isaiah Rodgers is pretty good, but he's still, I don't think, can cover Hopkins. And Byron Murphy, they're not going to put Murphy on Hopkins. They're going to put Murphy on Flowers as much as they can, I think. So it's Hopkins of all people that's the key in this game, I think, because the downfield, how Hopkins just never loses at the rim on those downfield targets. That's exactly the kind of play you need to land a couple times to make Flores think twice about those post-snap post-snap coverage disguises. And I think it's important, as you said, for the Ravens to find ways to get Lamar out of harm's way, because if they do what they often do, which is just sort of, get us out of here, Lamar. It's like this is a situation where you're like making it easy for him to fail. If so,
yeah, I think so as well. I'd love to see more Hopkins on a per target basis. He's been pretty terrific this year. Looking at it, 10 catches on 15 targets for 192 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's a 20 yards per catch average, roughly. Getting targeted on 17% of his routes, but again, not getting a ton of opportunity. Has peaked at just like 25, 26 snaps in a given game. Was played just 18 last week. So would like to see him get a little bit more involved. Let's flip it over to the Vikings offense and, how things looked in your mind with JJ McCarthy taking back over last week. They're still kind of largely unable to run the ball, which I think could be an issue, because I don't think oftentimes I worry about the Ravens when they have to defend the pass a million times, but when it's McCarthy and not, a more established quarterback, it's a different story.
Yeah, Jones got going pretty well, Aaron Jones, but I don't know what his injury status is this week. Right. So I will say Jordan Mason, I definitely think, can do better than 10 for 36 like he did last week against a defense like the Ravens, because the Lions are, in a very real way, kind of the opposite of the Ravens defense. Like, if anything, the Lions are sketchy in the secondary, but their front seven is quite good, and specifically against the run, they always have two guys on the field, which is specifically where Jordan Mason is most effective. And against the Lions, it was the hardest. It was the most difficult thing you could have attempted against them. So I think Mason is capable of giving the Vikings like a steady and high volume game as a runner if they don't fall behind. The JJ McCarthy part, though, I'm still not buying it. I mean, he started out great last week, but I think it's the way that the second half went. Like JJ McCarthy was great for, what was it, like 3 drives, and then he just kind of was like a 0 the rest of the game. And that looks to me like one of those things that we talked about earlier with the scripted game, the scripted play call part of the game plan. I think Kevin O'Connell just had a good, JJ, we're going to do this and this and this, and this is going to, play off of this way. You do this if you see this, and this is what you do here. And that kind of stuff, especially if it's things on tape that the defense didn't have the luxury of studying before the game, you can sort of just catch the defense in a difficult spot off guard, but you're working on borrowed time. And eventually they're going to figure out what it is you're doing differently. And then once they do, the jig is up. So keeping McCarthy for games at a time in that state that he was in for the first 3 or 4 drives or whatever last week is basically not possible. I guess being in Minnesota certainly helps. If it was in Baltimore, I'd be like, nah, McCarthy's gonna fall apart again. He'll probably be okay to start this game, but I for the Vikings perspective, I worry that you just need to hide this guy for now. I don't doubt, and I actually suspect that JJ McCarthy will get better with time. He still is very young. There's he's like 4 years younger than Tyler Shuck after all. So he's got time, but the Vikings don't. And I think if you need to throw the ball more than like 25 times with McCarthy in a game, you're eventually going to see him doing the thing where he's just, I don't know how he does it, but just those free rushers, getting hit by free rushers all the time. Never happened to Sam Darnold. Didn't even really happen to Carson Wentz. But when McCarthy's out there, he's just roadkill immediately.
We'll see if the Ravens can press that issue, assuming that Draymond Jones fixes all of their woes up front. Our guy Jason has been patiently waiting for us to answer a big old question of his. So pretty meaty trade offer here. He would be receiving Jamar Chase, Amarian Hampton, and Woody Marks, giving away Rico Dowdle, Rashad White, and Marvin Harrison. So I think there is like a little bit of renewed optimism about Harrison now that it seems like Brissett's going to be the starter for at least this next little bit. And the Cardinals offense has obviously looked better of late. They're going to be an interesting team to talk about here, but I always love getting the best player in a deal. And that to me is still Jamar Chase. So I probably lean that way.
I trade those three guys for just Chase. So if Marks is getting thrown in and Hampton's getting thrown in, I definitely do it.
Yeah, and Hampton, like I said, there's a bit of injury risk with him at least out until week 13, but
it's only gravy in this case. Like you're getting Jamar Chase and Woody Marks. So if Hampton comes back, it just makes in my opinion, it just makes the trade like fully unfair for the other team, which means it's you should do it.
That's right. All right. Let's move on over. We got handful of games left. We've got, oh boy, we got the Browns and the Jets. The Browns, I think this line has like crossed the zero, as the gambling guys say. I think the Jets used to be favored. Now the Browns are favored by 1.5 on the road. I don't think the Browns have covered on the road since Nam. So that's an interesting tidbit. But the Jets also just offloaded everybody. So I don't really know what to make of this one.
Yeah, the Jets are they're pretty much an NFL Europe team at this point. So I feel like the Browns should be able to take care of business. Not that the Browns have a good offense. Clearly they won't with the quarterbacks they have, but their defense should keep just sort of showing up, and against Justin Fields I do hope Tyler Johnson gets me his customary 3 catches for 60 yards here. And to be serious, I think Tyler Johnson might be decent. The Jets have been giving him more snaps in the slot lately too, which is interesting. I think it might indicate they're kind of game planning the passing game for him. So it's not where the Jets want to be though. And Justin Fields, I guess the offensive line is still okay, but why would anyone expect a passing game to work with this personnel that the Jets have? And if you're going against the Browns defense, it's like you throw in the Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, Tyson Campbell variables. What could possibly go right here for the Jets? I don't know. Just my Tyler Johnson pick, hope, and whatever. I hope Breece Hall does well and Isaiah Davis or whatever else. But the issue for the Jets winning this game is that on the other side, their defense, I guess I forgot to check if Judkins is back in practice or whatever. But
I'll confirm that. Go ahead.
Judkins against this just no-name Jets defense could get out of hand. No Quinnen Williams with Sauce Gardner gone. Who knows how bad the pass defense could get? It was already quite bad even with him there. So I guess it looks like he's not even on the injury report.
Judkins good to go.
So yeah, Judkins could go kind of nuts in this game, and I think Breece Hall could play valiantly, and it would still be a miracle if he got to like 80 yards rushing on 20 carries.
Yeah, I mean that's just kind of the way of the world right now for this Jets team. So I think I like the Browns in this spot as well, despite the Jets, winning that crazy game the last time that we saw them. Let's get one of the better games of this week: Patriots Bucks. Bucks 2.5 point favorites at home.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm apparently going to be so wrong about this game, but based on the betting lines and how it won't move from Tampa as the 2.5 or sorry, these lines, it looks or the public betting has changed a little bit since I last looked a couple days ago. Now the line's not moving from the 2.5 that the Buccaneers are favored by, even with a lot of the public betting on the Buccaneers. I'm surprised. Are you surprised by that? I thought people would be betting on the Patriots. I thought the Patriots are the
I
juggernaut
kind of thought
now.
so too.
I thought Drake May
Yeah.
was the goated prince that was promised, and now it's like this is I'm to believe this team is going to go to Tampa Bay and lose to Baker Mayfield's obviously playing great, but what was the latest? Is Gedeke back? I guess if Luke Gedeke gets back for the Buccaneers, that would be pretty big. But if he's out, then the right guard and right tackle spots are still down for the Buccaneers. That right tackle spot is crucial. Charlie Heck is awful, and if Gedeke is out again, then I don't know. It's not as if Harold Landry is going to have 5 sacks or something, but it's just a lot for Baker Mayfield to deal with in that case when he's also dealing with the receiver injuries. I don't think it's a good thing that Tez Johnson is supposed to play 40 snaps this week for the Buccaneers. That's a situation that is, if you're the Buccaneers, you don't want to end up there. You want to be using Tez Johnson for 20 or 15 snaps a week, only in hurry up. But if that's what if you're pushing that out there for 40 snaps, if you're down 2 starters at the right guard, right tackle spot, if Drake May keeps playing half as well as he has this year, I don't really see where the Patriots are weak. It's like I need May to just kind of turn the ball over to make it work, because you go unit by unit, the Patriots just look better to me.
That's my assumption as well. I'm worried about this Buccaneers team just kind of like reaching critical mass with his injuries right now. So the offensive line point, well taken, and of course everyone knows about the receiver situation. It looks like across the board, according to our depth chart, that the Bucks are clean as far as the injury report goes on the offensive line, but Charlie Heck still kind of fully healthy, still kind of an issue, and Gedeke.
I'm sorry, is that to say there's no injury designation listed for Gedeke?
He is designated to return. He was a limited participant Wednesday, but we had him like buried because he was on IR, so they'd have to activate him.
Yeah, if Gedeke, I don't know how realistic or not it is for him to play. I haven't paid close attention to these designated return situations, but if Gedeke is out, that really, again, would be bad. So, meanwhile, I think there's reason to believe May will be just fine in this game. I don't know if Hassan Reddick is out again, especially. I think May should be fine here. I guess the point that would be a problem would be Vita Vea, because that I don't know. I assume Bradbury's not that great, and although we love our Jared Wilson at left guard, I don't want him going against Vita Vea if I'm the Patriots. And he needs a lot of help there probably. So maybe there's some way it all collapses from the center. But otherwise, I feel like Stephon Diggs should be able to get the better of these heavier-footed, longer-legged corners like Zion McCollum and Jamel Dean. It's almost like the third-round rookie Jacob Parrish might be the toughest matchup for Stephon Diggs, and you still take Stephon Diggs against pretty much any rookie corner. So
sure,
I just don't see the matchup-based reason why the Patriots would fail.
Yeah, I think when you put it like that, I'm going to agree with you here. This is one of the trickier ones to sort out for this week for spread purposes and everything. I think the total here implies that should be plenty of offense on both sides. It's sitting at 48.5, so this will be a popular one for DFS and everything. But yeah, I think I'm willing to look past the Patriots being shaky against the Falcons. I think that they'll come correct in this spot against a banged up Buccaneers team. Next up, a game that I wouldn't have thought was going to be that interesting a couple weeks ago. suddenly looks kind of cool. We got the Cardinals and the Seahawks. This one up in Seattle. Kind of a tainted sample of a game earlier this year, obviously with Kyler Murray being out there in that Thursday night game. Now it's Jacoby Brissett, and now the Cardinals. Are they like? I don't know. They're not dangerous. No, they're.
Their
I don't know what to
defense is
make of them.
good.
Yeah, and the offense, at least, it's getting out of its own way a little bit more now.
Yeah, I think they just played some easy defenses, and like the Packers kind of. I mean that was a good game from Brissett, but I really think it's probably a small sample thing with Brissett. I mean, we have very extensive reason to believe he's not particularly good. And then to be fair to Brissett, he doesn't have much help either. Like McBride is great, obviously. I think Harrison would be great if he was used the correct way, but even now they still aren't using him the correct way. It's just they played Dallas. So I don't expect Harrison to ever be used correctly by the Gannon Petzing regime. The defense though is good, and it's in a way that it would just sort of be hard to screw up because of how much talent they have, and crucially in the front seven. I mean, Josh Sweat has, I assume he's proven worth the contract that they paid him. I mean, I know it wasn't cheap, but he's having a really constant effect. Calais Campbell he's like 40, but he's playing really, really well.
He's still big.
I'm eager to see what BJ Ojolari might be able to give them. I don't know if he's going to return this week, but he was looking good last year. 2 years ago already, 2023 as a rookie, and he could give them like another double-digit sack kind of threat. Eventually, opposite Josh Sweat. So yeah, there's a lot going on in the front seven. They can get to the quarterback. The front four is disrupt. Oh, Walter Nolan too. So
he's coming back.
He was doing good last week. So there's a lot of swarm in the front seven with the Arizona defense, and then their secondary has some good guys. You know, I mean, it's not like a top tier group or whatever, but it's probably above that, or it's right on the line of average. And once these prospects like Max Melton, Will Johnson get a little better, it will be above average. I don't know if Melton is out with that concussion.
Right.
Will Johnson's kind of got ongoing injury concerns, but they get back Garrett Williams in the slot, and that lets them move Jalen Thompson back to safety full time. Jalen Thompson had been playing in the slot, I suppose, well enough, as it were, but Garrett Williams gives them an upgrade there. So this Arizona defense was, I think, hovering the line of right around average in the first half of the year, but with Nolan getting healthier, Garrett Williams getting back, this should be a top 10-ish defense or so that the Cardinals have. So I think that's probably the danger to the Seahawks here, because I don't think the Arizona offense is particularly scary. I mean, it's not. I hate it. It sucks.
I mean, it's bad, but I think the results under Brissett have been encouraging. Like the game in Indianapolis was like, it feels like they're not overthinking it so much anymore. I don't know.
Yeah. I just think in this particular game, I guess maybe because that Arizona defense being good, and maybe because it's getting even better with some of these guys getting back from injury, maybe this is the game where bonehead Sam Darnold finally shows up in 2025 for understandable reasons. You know, the Cardinals defense is easy to make mistakes against, especially if it keeps getting better. But yeah, Darnold, 16 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. Even if you like and the 70% completed, 9.6 yards per attempt, like, it's not as bad as the Daniel Jones case, because in my opinion, Daniel Jones is just like not good. I think Darnold's pretty good, but not 70.4, 9.6 per attempt good. You know, like there's got to be that letdown week, and those letdown weeks are usually not when you specifically see it coming on paper. So I don't know. Maybe this, Arizona this week on the road to the Rams in week 11. Maybe this is a stumbling stretch for Sam Darnold, but I don't know how I think the Cardinals need a low scoring game to win at the very least.
Yeah, we got a total of 45.5. Yeah, if this game is played closer to 40, I think the Cardinals are better fit. Really enjoyed the defensive backfield calculus that you were running there on this Arizona team. pretty interesting stuff there. I'm going to take the Cardinals in the points. Maybe I'm a donkey for doing that. People are seemingly
That's a
ready
lot of
to,
points.
yeah, for a division game. Like, it wasn't that much of a blowout for it by the I think the Seahawks are playing better than they were in week 4 or whatever it was, but I think the Cardinals are as well. So I'll take the points here. Not feeling great about it, but it is what it is.
Points in the under, right?
Points in the under. Points and the under. Lastly, what did you make of the Rashid Shaheed edition, reuniting with Clint Kubiak?
So I know I was just talking about Jacoby Myers and how I don't think he's going to. Well, I extremely could be wrong. I just sort of assumed Myers isn't going to exactly be unleashed with 4 days notice or whatever with the Jaguars. With Rashid Shaheed, you kind of can just say go, just go. And he does have the prior background with Clint Kubiak. So if you have Rashid Shaheed, I say, and if he's the kind of player you were starting, as it were, then I say let it rip. I don't see much reason to be cautious with him. It's more just like, if he's on your bench normally, leave him there too. Like, don't go like chasing him now that he's on the Sam Darnold offense. Like, I love Shaheed, and he very well could just kind of take off right away with the Seahawks, but I wouldn't want to bench a player that I trust to chase that kind of like fun upside that might at best be like a couple weeks away.
And like long term, like, did you like this move for Seattle? Do you think that it kind of moves the needle as far as like, their pass catching at the top is elite, obviously, with JSN, but it feels like, this iteration of banged up Cooper Kupp, they needed some more punch, I think, and some more options for Darnold. So I feel like this was a really shrewd trade by Seattle just moving forward. I don't know how much it moves the needle fantasy wise, but I think it does make them a little more complete.
I assume they have to extend him, but those numbers, if they aren't outrageous, I will probably see this as a very good trade for the Seahawks, because I think Rashid Shaheed's really good, and a late 4th, a late 5th round pick, like, who cares? And even if they don't re-sign him, Shaheed should get a comp pick in 2027, and it's an extra year to have to wait. But if the Seahawks don't re-sign Shaheed, he'll probably sign in free agency for like, God, I don't know, like 20 plus million or something. I don't know what it might be overestimating that, but Shaheed is a really good player in my opinion. I don't see him as a gadget guy or anything like that. I think he's just a real clearly above average receiver. And how I'm kind of obsessive about the spacing consideration. Definitely like what he brings to the table there. So I think it's pretty much a steal for the Seahawks.
Yeah. I'm loving the Seahawks team. Like, I'm open to the idea of them winning the NFC. I just think that this week,
especially with that trade, because like that really, even though we like Torrey Horton, it's like now they can threaten both corners of the end zone at the same time. It's like you go one high against Horton and Shaheed on the field at the same time. The defense can kind of burst open at a bunch of different points.
Yeah, and JSN, the way that he's playing, like, can definitely make you pay for it.
Right.
Let's move on over another really interesting NFC West clash. I got asked by Jeff and Nick on XM earlier this week if I think the NFC West is the best division in football, and that was before the Cardinals win on Monday Night Football. I gave kind of a wishy-washy answer, but with the Cardinals kind of stabilizing, it does feel like 1-4 that this is a really strong division. So Rams 4.5-point favorites on the road against the Niners. The Niners had that big survivor upset on Thursday Night Football about a month and a half ago, with Mac Jones being the late insert into the starting lineup for the 49ers, and they end up winning that game outright in LA. Do the Rams get their revenge?
I feel like this is I need to lean on you for this one, actually, John. Is Sean McVay famously bad against Kyle Shanahan? Is that one of those weird all-time records kind of things between those two?
I believe so.
So yeah, it's one of those things where
someone's in his side.
Sean McVay loses like 2 times a year to all other teams, but always to Kyle Shanahan twice. So maybe I just need to defer to that. Maybe I need to stop trying to analyze individual matchups and just accept that, like, for some reason, Sean McVay will always get bullied by Kyle Shanahan, and it can never change. Maybe that's the truth. I don't really know.
Yeah, just
but oh, sorry.
3-6 straight up and against the spread. 3-6 straight up and against the spread against Kyle Shanahan since Stafford came in.
Okay, that's funny. However, what's not funny is all these insane injuries that the 49ers keep having, the latest one being Michael Williams, another ACL too. How do your DEs keep tearing their ACLs? They're supposed to sprain their ankles or something once in a while, or get stepped on or something, but we're just tearing ACLs out here in the DE room, 49ers. And you just can't keep taking hits like that forever. You just can't. And now the listed top of the depth chart guy, and this guy might be good. You another one you'll have to tell me either way, John. Former Maryland product Sam Okueanonu, or I assume that's vaguely right. So, like, a guy like him's just replacing Michael Williams.
You know what?
He
didn't jump out to me quite as much.
Okay, so yeah, it's you can't just put anybody on the field. Yeah. So you can't just put anybody on the field and expect them to just kind of keep chugging along. I just don't think, no matter how good the coaching is, like Robert Saleh, I think, could be a great enough coach to make Michael Williams a good DE1, even though that wasn't the plan. I don't think any defensive coordinator is so good that they can just take, UDFAs from Maryland and say, like, go be Nick Bosa, please. So I think it's probably me failing to respect, the gods of whatever jurisdiction, but about the Sean McVay, he's like cursed against Shanahan. Maybe I should just stop at that point. But I think the Rams are just catching the 49ers at such a vulnerable state that maybe the curse is not applicable this one time.
Yeah, and I think the Niners got their one earlier in the year against the Rams. I think the Rams get their payback, and like the Rams are like almost on a de facto bye, or coming off a de facto bye with how easy things were against the Saints last week. So I think I like the Rams here to buck that trend. Any other like kind of fantasy notes from this game?
Not really. I still don't know what to expect for the Rams receivers, especially while Pearsall's out. So another part of why I'm going with the Rams is, like, when you ask me how the Rams win, it's pretty simple, I suppose. They throw to Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, and that should work. So I guess it should be fine. But with the 49ers, I'm going, well, maybe they try to get 130 yards out of Kendrick Bourne, or maybe, I don't know, they throw it to Juwan Jennings 10 times. That might not work. It's just not that exciting, even though Shanahan probably will get one of those two receivers at least to produce just through like the strength of the game planning. I don't know which one it'll be, though.
Yeah. So yeah, they are. I mean, Jennings is, I think, startable, assuming that Pearsall's out.
You can start either one, I think, especially with the bye weeks. Like, if I could have gotten Kendrick Bourne on waivers, I would be starting him over Tyler Johnson.
Yeah, no, that's well said. Let's move on over. We got a couple more games to go. We got the Lions, Commanders. The Commanders just totally falling apart. The spread in this one, Lions 8.5 on the road in Washington.
Yeah, it's too bad. Obviously, it's injuries pretty much that has done this to the Commanders. There's only so much you can do. The Lions will probably be able to move the ball however much they want to. I don't doubt that Washington will come out trying to play hard, trying to play for Jade and whatever else, their pride. But the pride gets less important the more times you have to just get knocked around by that Detroit run game. Eventually you won't care so much about the pride points, especially in the second half. So I think the Lions win and cover. I don't really know what is fair to expect or hope from the Washington offense. I mean, I guess it can't be a whole lot. Marcus Mariota's played okay, better than that probably, to be fair, but Detroit will not let them run up the middle. I guess Washington had no intention of running up the middle anyway. Like they should give Chris Rodriguez the ball more, but whereas Chris Rodriguez could have saved them in some previous weeks, he can't help you against Detroit. No one's getting through there, so they only can run off tackle, and Detroit knows that, so they're kind of sitting there too. I don't know. I don't expect Washington. I don't expect Washington to score so many as 17 points in this game.
Nope, I don't either. We got a decent amount of questions about Deebo Samuel just because he's seemingly like the last man standing. I think you start him, but anybody else in this Washington offense, it's kind of sketch.
Like, I don't like Jalen Lane. I just think he's just a gadget player to me. I'm skeptical that he can do a whole lot more. So Samuel, I worry about the efficiency, but you're right. It's I guess him or Ertz are the only people who profile for so many as like 4 targets in this game.
So and if you're starting Ertz, like you need a touchdown, otherwise it's going to be a dud of a week, and you can't really bank on a touchdown in this spot against the Lions. So sorry, Commanders. I think it's just about over for y'all this season. Steelers, Chargers. Chargers 3-point favorites, but the Chargers. Oh, this is going to go back as like a huge what if season for LA, I think, because their offensive line is just completely blown to smithereens at this point, and that's bad news when the Steelers are coming to town in particular.
Yeah, speaking of curses, I think the Chargers medical facility, whatever you call it, has something we might call the curse of David Chow. It's really pretty brutal to have this the timeline that they did with Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt is such a bummer, and I don't know what's fair to expect from them at this point, because with the kind of deterioration they've had at those 2 crucial spots, both of which were a strength before. Now left tackle and right tackle are both a problem. It's not as if left guard, center, right guard was going that well either. Those guys kind of suck too. So this Chargers offensive line might just be like the worst in the league at this point, or pretty close, something like that. Justin Herbert obviously is as tough as any quarterback, and he's not going to play scared or anything like that. But getting hit when you don't expect it, having to hurry everything all the time to a pace faster than you practiced it at, it has to add up. Then you talk about the Steelers pass rush specifically. I don't know. That sucks for the Steelers. Sorry, for the Chargers, that sucks. For the Steelers, they just need to stop the run, I suppose, and not to make it sound as if it's a walk in the park to do that. But as much as I like Kamani Vidal, he's more like a 50 grade running back than he is supposed to be a truly strong one. You know, you don't expect a guy like him to lift the tide. The offensive line is terrible, as we said, including his run blocking. So I don't know. It could really be a difficult spot for Herbert. I don't think Rodgers can do a whole lot on the other side, but I don't think he'll need to either. The Steelers can kind of just sit on the ball, bank on the Chargers defense getting tired after getting short fields because Herbert gets sacked like 6 times.
So yeah, I'm just worried about those drives getting extinguished for LA. So I'm tempted to take the points here with Pittsburgh as well. As far as Jaylen Warren, how you feel about him this week against this Chargers defense?
I think he's probably a mid-range running back 2 type, maybe a little higher due to the buys, particularly in PPR. I guess he's one of those guys that loses a little bit when he's in half-point PPR, but the efficiency, especially as a runner, will probably be challenged, especially early in the game. The longer the Chargers are out there, though, and especially the more Warren can get going off tackle, that would be good. Don't bother running at Jamari Caldwell. You're not getting through there. But off tackle, assuming Odafe Owe didn't just fix all their problems, the off tackle area is probably easier to run against the Chargers. So between I'm assuming short field positioning of the Steelers offense and the sort of luxury the Steelers will have to lean on the run game and play at the pace they prefer, it should be a pretty stable game script for Warren, even though I'm not exactly getting my hopes up for 5 yards a carry or anything.
No, so I think you're looking for opportunity, and you're looking for maybe one touchdown, and some receptions to kind of round out the stat line, but not expecting him to rip off like a bunch of monster runs
Right.
in this particular spot. Lastly, at this point, if we have Gadsden, we're starting him every week.
Oh yeah, especially because Travis Kelce's on bye, so I have to start Gads. I mean, I almost started him last week. Yeah, I get to this time, and I really hope he has a good game, because it'll be annoying to me if the one game he has that isn't good this year is when Travis Kelce's on bye.
Yeah, and when he's in your lineup. Let's finish it out. We got Packers, Eagles. Eagles coming off the bye. The Packers coming off a toughie against Carolina. To say,
sorry, Joe, I'm not laughing at you. It's the tragedy of man. It's kind of funny sometimes.
We're just laughing at the cosmos.
Yeah.
Let's see, and then beyond that, so loss is one thing. Losing the only thing that was really working in your passing game, I think, is reason for much.
That part is not funny.
For the Packers.
That tragedy of man is not as funny.
So Tucker Kraft out for the season. I mean, give the people your kind of snapshot on who Luke Musgrave is.
Well, he's a lot skinnier. He's not skinny, but Kraft is just very densely built, and Musgrave looks more like a small forward or something. So Musgrave is 6'6", probably 245 or something like that. Much more finesse than Kraft. And in theory, Musgrave is supposed to be a better downfield receiver than Kraft. That's why they took Musgrave just outside of the first round and didn't take Kraft until the third. They were like, this Kraft guy's just a blocker, but Musgrave, he could make plays downfield, and that's so exciting. But I don't know. I thought that Musgrave's production at Oregon State was a little uneven. He had basically 2 huge games his last year. One of those was against Fresno State or something like that. And then the 2 years or 3 years before that, he might have been splitting snaps with Quentin Tarantino, the blocking specialist tight end who's on the Texans or whatever. So Musgrave was, in my opinion, his production was a little concerning and indicated that his skill set variable was trending toward average, even if his athleticism was clearly above average. And it is. He's like a low 4.6 guy. So Musgrave can definitely run. He might be able to give them some seam shots that Kraft maybe isn't quite fast enough, doesn't quite have the reach to threaten the same way, but it'll have to look different. And I don't know how much the Packers trust Musgrave as a true inline guy. They definitely trusted Tucker Kraft as a true inline guy almost too much. They almost should have done more to get Kraft away from the teeth of the defense, give him space to run. But my concern with Musgrave is I guess, A, he's just not anywhere near the player that Kraft is. And then B, the type of ways Kraft fit into the game plan might not even fit Musgrave. Musgrave should play something like 40 snaps, but this John Fitzpatrick or whatever might take
he's a
more
dog
snaps than anyone was expecting.
I can't believe he's in the NFL.
Yeah, that one's a weird one actually, but yeah, huge guy. I know he made a quick impression with the team, even as like a nondescript like futures contract offseason pickup. It became pretty clear in training camp pretty early this year that Fitzpatrick was going to make it with the Packers. So clearly he made an impression with them, and clearly it's not as a pass catcher. So it's if it's sort of inline ruggedness that the Packers want in this game rather than the kind of like lanky seam threat with Musgrave, Fitzpatrick really might play enough snaps that people are complaining about it on Twitter.
I will be on the lookout for that. And then, kind of looking at the larger picture for this Packers offense, how does this target distribution get recalibrated with Kraft? He was taking up so much oxygen and doing such a great job with it and being such a great like yards after the catch, just mosher out there. I think that there's been a ton of questions in the chat here about Romeo Dobbs for this week, and I think we have him ranked as a top 20 receiver. So I feel like he is the safe one,
I
relatively
always like
speaking.
Dobbs.
So I think
But
that
we don't know what
he sets
Kenyon
it
Mitchell's
well.
going to do is the one thing. If Kenyon Mitchell's shadowing Dobbs, even though I like Dobbs, I think Dobbs is more like a wide receiver 2 ideally than a wide receiver 1. And if Kenyon Mitchell's on you, you're getting the wide receiver 1 treatment. However, if the Eagles don't shadow Dobbs with Mitchell, then Ringo or Adoree Jackson or whoever it is on the boundary, he can definitely beat them. And I don't know. I think maybe I'm expressing too much concern about Mitchell because Dobbs is good. I kind of worried like I'm being a homer about him or something. He is good. Matthew Golden is apparently whatever. Matt LaFleur apparently can't get Matthew Golden going yet because he has to do too many Rube Goldberg designed plays for Savion Williams instead. But I think that especially if Golden's not taking up room, and in the context of like, we probably don't expect Christian Watson to just keep averaging like 4.5 yards per snap or whatever. So there should be some slack for Dobbs there. And it's not as if Musgrave's going to pick up everything that Kraft leaves as a void. So yeah, particularly with bye weeks, it's you don't need to run away from Dobbs is I guess where I'm now leaning. It might be a bit of a grind for him, but the Packers have to keep going to him, I think.
Yeah, no, I think he's the one like stable guy I can feel good about starting. And then Watson, you always love the big play upside, and there should be some more targets to go around for him. But Golden, I've cut bait where I have him in season long. Like I know I'm never going to get it right picking the right spot for him, and I think he got a little bit dinged up. But excited for Jayden Reed to get back whenever that happens. That would help things for this Packers team. But on the Eagles side of the equation, how best applied is their attack against this Packers defense?
I think it's always the same with the Eagles. Like they should try to get Saquon Barkley going early in the game, and even if it's not popping off immediately, they got to stick with it. Make the defense lean forward and put on bigger personnel so that you can hit them over the top. If you need Jalen Hurts to just navigate a crowded field, I think you're asking for trouble. So it could be trouble for Hurts against Jeff Hafley's defense in that sense. Like Jeff Hafley, I haven't paid close enough attention to know if he's in that Flores Minter kind of tier. He might be just outside of it if he's not. And specifically, he kind of Hafley has the Flores bit about the disguised coverages from pre to post snap, and I think that could land hard on a quarterback like Hurts. I think Hurts needs certain cues to know where to go in certain situations, and like the places he can go with the ball are already a little limited in my opinion. So if AJ Brown's latest status up here, let's see. Apparently there's no note on his practice. Okay. If AJ Brown's not back, then I really worry for Hurts. If AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are both out there, I think even though it would be a challenging game for Hurts, you can still have sort of the customary level of optimism that he can grind through it, specifically because AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, the downfield threat they pose, just as in the case of the Vikings, it's the way you hurt the Packers, in my opinion. Like, I don't think you hurt the Packers pass defense by playing the game on their terms, which is, trying to decode their constantly fluctuating coverage shells. I think if you're, as an offense, trying to move along with them on that, you're sort of just playing the game on their terms. And instead you just got to say like, no, we're racing, we're going downfield. You're chasing us. You're not going to do a handoff. You're not just going to like hand your way off through this. You're going to have to chase someone and make a play on the ball at some point. And AJ Brown, screaming down the sideline is I think the exact thing that it takes to break a defense that's otherwise as well composed as the Packers on their zone techniques. I don't know. I'm not a huge Hurts fan, so I don't as easily as some other people just assume that he'll have one of his better games. He's definitely capable of it, but I really would worry a lot if Brown is not out there.
This is a huge game for both these teams. I feel like it really kind of like high stakes in the NFC pecking order, and the Packers a little bit more urgency coming off of a tough loss. I think they bounce back in this spot, even with the Eagles having the rest advantage. But yeah, it obviously gets a lot more challenging. They're gonna have to fix the offense on the fly against a good
As
Eagles
the
defense.
Eagles, you really wish the Packers had beat the Panthers. If you're the Eagles, you're like, oh, we thought they might be coasting a little bit on their great division record and whatever else, but they just lost to the Panthers, so now they're gonna pull all the tricks they can think of.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's been a particularly fun week in practice up in Green Bay. Before we finish out, just want to remind everybody to like and subscribe to us over here on YouTube. And if you're looking to subscribe to RotoWire itself, we're running a 15% off deal. Go to rotowire.com. Use that code YouTube15. You can get 15% off any of our products. And additionally, if you missed out on having us personally answer your start sit questions, we do have a fancy new tool that you can use. It is called Who Should I Start? Pretty intuitive, and it really helps you make your lineup decisions. Just go in there. You're able to add whichever players that you're fretting about, and we will run a bunch of simulations, tell you who the better play is, which percentage of the time. Very nifty tool. I was all in the weeds on Sunday morning using that tool, and it guided me in the right direction. So great new tool that we've got. We got tons of other stuff. If you play the picks and props stuff, we've got great projections tools for that. Lets you know the win rate relative to the posted lines, stuff like that. So super helpful. Go ahead, check us out, rotowire.com. Use that code YouTube15 to get your 15% off. And lastly, we also have a message from Chalkboard. Cash in on your NFL picks this season with Chalkboard. Simply choose more or less on your favorite player stats to win up to 5,000 times your money. For a limited time only, new players receive a free pick and 100% deposit match. See why over 1 million fans have already locked in with Chalkboard to turn their sports knowledge into cold, hard cash. Whether you're locking in the perfect slip with alternate lines, using the cash out feature to take your money and run, or hammering the daily promos, today is your chance to win up to $40,000 on a single entry. Stop sitting on the sidelines and get into the game with Chalkboard Fantasy Sports, now available in 30 plus states. Download Chalkboard today and use promo code ROTONFL. That's ROTONFL to claim your free pick and 100% deposit match. Now, that's going to do it for us here. For Mario Puig, I'm John McKechnie. Thanks for listening.